The first thing Brooke said to me after 6 years was not hello. She stood beside my table at a small country bar outside Fort Worth, looked down at my grease-stained work shirt and said, "So this is where deadbeats hide when they don't want to pay for their own kids." I remember the glass stopping halfway to my mouth. The band was loud, the place smelled like beer and fried food, and 3 men at the next table turned just enough to listen without looking like they were listening. I knew Brooke from years before when she used to follow Leah around everywhere, but the hate on her face made me feel like I had walked into a trial I did not know had started. I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. She laughed once, sharp and ugly, then said Leah had spent months looking for me when she was pregnant, and I had vanished like every broke man vanishes when responsibility shows up. That word landed harder than it should have. Broke. She said it while looking at my hands, my shirt, and the old Ford key on the table. I should have walked away right then. Instead, I asked her what child she meant. Brooke stared at me for a long second, and for the first time, her confidence cracked. She asked if I was really going to pretend I did not know about Emma. I heard the name, and the room seemed to tilt, not in a dramatic way, but in the practical, sick way the body reacts when it understands danger before the mind can organize it. Emma was 5 years old, she said. Leah's daughter, possibly mine. 6 years earlier, Leah had been the kind of woman who made a noisy room go quiet around her without trying. I met her at a rodeo dance hall in Weatherford, back when I was working days at an auto shop, and nights doing roadside calls because I was trying to build something nobody around me could see yet. She was laughing near the bar with Brooke, wearing a denim jacket, boots, and that careless confidence people have when they still believe time is unlimited. Leah never asked much about my money, and I never corrected what she assumed. I drove an old truck, wore shop clothes, and usually had cash in small bills because customers paid roadside work however they could. She thought I was just a mechanic scraping by. I let her think that, partly because I hated the way people changed when they heard numbers, and partly because in those days, I still felt more like a man pretending to be stable than a man who actually was. Leah and I never called it love, but we acted like it when nobody was watching. She would meet me after her shift at a boutique near the mall, climb into my truck, and ask me to drive with no destination. We ate burgers in parking lots, listened to old country stations, and once, after a storm knocked the power out at my duplex, she sat with me on the floor while I held a flashlight over a cheap takeout dinner. They did not. We drifted the way people drift when pride does the talking for both of them. She stopped answering as quickly. I picked up more roadside jobs. One missed weekend became 2, then a month, then silence that felt mutual enough for me to stop fighting it. I never changed my number. I never moved from the duplex. I never blocked her, not once. So when Brooke stood over me in that bar and said Leah had begged people to help find me while carrying my baby, anger came up through the shock. I told her my number was the same. My address was the same. My job was the same. If Leah had wanted to find me, she could have. Brooke's mouth tightened. She said that was not what Sharon told everyone. I knew Sharon only by name back then. Leah's mother had always been a shadow at the edge of our conversations. A woman Leah described with tight little sentences and quick subject changes. Brooke said Sharon had raised Emma since Leah left Texas for Oklahoma City more than a year earlier. She said Leah had gone there for work, then changed numbers, and Emma stayed behind because Sharon was the only stable adult in that family. I asked for Sharon's number. Brooke hesitated, then told me maybe it was better if I left them alone because I had already done enough. That was the second time she tried to put the verdict before the evidence. The men at the next table were openly listening now, and one of them looked at me like he had decided I was guilty because my shirt had oil near the collar. I put $40 on the table and stood up. I told Brooke to give me the number or stop saying my name in public. She blinked at that, maybe because the broke, deadbeat voice she expected was not the one that came out of me. Then one detail would not leave me alone. If Leah had looked for me, why had nobody called the shop? The next morning, I called Sharon from the parking lot before work. She answered with a flat voice, and when I said my name, the line went quiet so long I checked whether the call had dropped. Finally, she asked who had given me her number, not why I was calling, not whether I knew, not whether I was all right. Who gave you this number? I told her Brooke had. I said I had heard about Emma and needed to understand what was true. Sharon breathed hard through her nose, then said Leah had cried over me for months and that I had no right to walk back in because curiosity got the better of me. I said I wanted a DNA test. That changed her tone. She went from cold to offended so quickly it felt practiced. She said men like me always wanted proof when it was time to pay, but never proof when they were taking what they wanted from a woman. I was standing beside a truck with a blown radiator, holding a wrench in one hand. Listening to a woman I barely knew turn my entire character into a cheap story. I asked her again if she would agree to the test. She said yes, but if Emma was mine, I had better not think I could take her away. Then she added that raising a child was expensive, and she hoped I had more than mechanic money because daycare, food, clothes, and medical bills did not run on apologies. She mentioned $1,850 a month like she had already done the math on what I owed. That number told me she had thought about this before I called. I met Emma the following Sunday at Sharon's rental house in a tired neighborhood south of town. The grass was high, the porch light was broken, and an older SUV with expired tags sat in the driveway. Sharon opened the door wearing church clothes and a smile that did not reach any part of her face. She looked me up and down exactly like Brooke had. Emma came out from the hallway holding a stuffed rabbit by one ear. She had Leah's dark hair and serious eyes, and for one stupid, painful second I looked for myself in her face. I hated myself for doing it. A child should not have to become evidence just because adults failed at honesty. I crouched and told her my name was Ethan. She said she knew, because Grandma said I was the man who disappeared. Sharon did not correct her. I stood back up slowly. That was the first time I understood the damage had already started. This little girl had been handed a villain before she had ever met me, and no matter what the test said later, someone had used my absence as a bedtime story. I kept my voice calm. I asked Sharon not to say things like that to Emma until we knew the truth. Sharon crossed her arms and told me truth was not always found in a lab. She said some men could be fathers by blood and strangers by choice, and if I felt insulted, maybe I should ask myself why. I wanted to answer. Instead, I looked at Emma, who was watching both of us like children watch storms from under blankets. I swallowed it. That was my first silent decision. The test took 3 weeks to arrange because Sharon kept finding reasons to delay. One day, Emma had a cough. Another day, Sharon said the lab fee was too high, even after I offered to pay the full $490. Then she wanted me to sign a handwritten note, promising I would not seek custody if the result came back positive. When I refused, she called me selfish in front of Emma. I left that house shaking with anger and did something I had not planned to do. I called a family attorney named Marcus, someone my property company had used once during an eviction dispute, and paid $600 for a consultation. I told him it might be nothing, but something felt off. He told me to keep every message, never threaten anyone, and make no private agreements with Sharon. By then, my life had split in two. During the day, I fixed engines and reviewed contractor invoices for the Denton property at night. The apartment complex had finally started making money after 2 years of repairs, and a regional pharmacy chain had just offered our company $420,000 for a long-term lease option on the corner lot behind it. I should have been focused on that deal. When we finally sat in the lab waiting room, Sharon behaved like a woman doing me a favor. Emma colored on a clipboard beside her, and every few minutes, Sharon said things just loud enough for the receptionist to hear. She said some men needed a court document before they found their conscience. She said Leah had always picked the wrong kind of man. She said if I was so sure, maybe I should start saving because 5 years of unpaid support would not be cheap. The result came back negative. I read the line 3 times before I understood it. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. I was not Emma's father. The room did not give me relief the way I expected. It gave me an emptiness so sudden, I had to sit down at my kitchen table and press the paper flat with both hands. For 3 weeks I had imagined a child. I had imagined soccer games, school drop-offs, awkward first conversations, and the slow work of repairing 5 years I did not know I had lost. Then one line on a report erased all of that, and somehow I still felt responsible for the little girl who had called me the man who disappeared. I texted Brooke the result. She apologized, but even her apology came with a bruise. She said Leah must have been confused back then, and Sharon had only been trying to protect Emma. I asked what other men had been told they might be the father. She did not answer for 2 days. When she finally did, she wrote one sentence. There was one before you. 7 months later, Leah called. I was under the hood of a Tahoe when my phone lit up with an unknown Oklahoma number. I almost ignored it because customers usually texted first, but something made me wipe my hand on a rag and answer. Her voice said my name like she was afraid it might break in her mouth. Ethan. It's Leah. She said she was back in Fort Worth. She had heard I met Emma and did the test. She said she owed me a conversation, then corrected herself, and said she owed me more than that. I asked why she had not called when she was pregnant. She went quiet. Then she asked if we could meet somewhere public. I should have said no. I met her at a diner off the interstate because it had bright lights, bad coffee, and too many witnesses for either of us to pretend. Leah was waiting in a booth near the window, and the first sight of her hit me with a force I did not want to admit. She looked older, not in a ruined way, but in the way people look when life has taken payments from them. Still beautiful, still dangerous to the sensible part of me. For the first 10 minutes, she talked around the wound. She asked about work. She mentioned the weather. She said Texas felt different after Oklahoma City, which was the kind of sentence people use when the truth is standing too close. I let her circle until I could not stand it anymore. I asked her if she had told people I disappeared. Her face changed. Not anger, not guilt exactly, fear. She said she had looked for me at first. But then her mother told her my number was disconnected and that a man from the shop said I had left town. I told her none of that was true. She looked down at her hands and whispered that she knew that now. That one word opened a door I was not ready to walk through. Leah told me Sharon had controlled everything after she found out about the pregnancy. The phone, the appointments, the story told to family. Leah said she was scared, broke and ashamed, and Sharon kept saying I had abandoned her. Every time Leah tried to push back, Sharon told her Emma needed stability, not a confused young mother chasing a man who did not want her. I asked why she left Emma with Sharon. Leah's eyes filled, but she did not cry. She said she went to Oklahoma City because Sharon knew a woman who promised work with weekly cash, and because by then, Sharon had convinced her no judge would leave Emma with a mother who had no steady income. Leah said leaving was supposed to be temporary. I asked what kind of work. She stirred coffee she had not touched. She said it was complicated. I told her complicated was not an answer. She looked at me across that sticky diner table and said she had done things she was ashamed of, things she had convinced herself were temporary because rent was $200. Childcare was impossible, and Sharon kept sending messages about diapers, doctor bills, and money Leah owed her for raising Emma. She said she had worked nights at a private club. The words sat there between us, too neat for what they meant. I did not ask details right away. I looked out the window at the gas station across the street and watched a man fill his tank like the world had not changed. Then Leah said she was not there anymore. She worked at a clothing store in Fort Worth now, making $17 an hour, trying to get herself steady before going back to court for Emma. Court. That was the first I had heard of court. She said Sharon had filed for temporary guardianship while Leah was in Oklahoma. Leah claimed she signed papers without understanding what they really gave away because Sharon told her it was only to keep Emma on insurance and enroll her in school. I asked if she had a copy. Leah shook her head. Over the next month, Leah and I saw each other more than either of us admitted was wise. It started with coffee after her shifts, then dinner. Then one night she came by my duplex because her car battery died, and I replaced it in the parking lot under a flickering security light. She brought Emma with her that night, and Emma remembered me. She asked if I was still not her dad. Leah froze. I crouched beside the car and told Emma no. I was not her dad, but I was still glad I knew her. She seemed to consider that, then asked if I fixed everybody's cars or only people Grandma did not like. Leah closed her eyes in pain. That was the night I stopped pretending I could stay outside of it. There was love in small things before there was trust. Leah started telling me the truth in pieces, not because I forced her, but because silence became heavier when we were together. She admitted she had believed I left. She admitted she hated me for years. She admitted she let Sharon tell Emma that I was one of the men who ran away because it made Leah feel less alone in her own failure. One Saturday, I took her and Emma to a small lake outside the city because Emma had never fed ducks anywhere but a drainage pond behind Sharon's house. Leah packed sandwiches like she was afraid to spend money, and Emma wore pink sneakers with one loose light that blinked every third step. For 2 hours, no one accused anyone of anything. Emma laughed when a duck stole bread from my hand. Leah laughed at Emma, and I saw the family that could have existed if adults had told the truth sooner. By the end of summer, Leah and I were together in every way except the safe way. I still kept my company papers locked in a drawer. I still did not tell her that the man fixing her brakes for free owned 30% of property assets, now valued at nearly $2.3 million. It was not a test exactly. It was protection. Everyone in this story had used what they thought they knew about me, and for once I wanted to know who Leah was when she thought I had nothing to offer but myself. Sharon noticed before we told her. The first time Leah brought me to the house again, Sharon opened the door and said, "You must like cleaning up other people's trash, Ethan. First you wanted the kid, now you want the mother." I told Sharon not to talk about her daughter like that. She smiled at me and said I did not get to give rules in a house I could not afford to rent. Then she looked at Leah and said, right in front of me, that women with Leah's history should be grateful when any man with a steady paycheck wanted them, even a mechanic. The first was thinking shame would keep Leah obedient. The second was thinking Emma was too young to understand poison. The third was thinking my silence meant I had no reach. I did not reveal anything, not then. I put my hand on Leah's back and told her we were leaving. Sharon followed us onto the porch, voice rising, saying Leah would never get Emma back because no judge was going to hand a child to a former club girl living on retail wages and sleeping with the same man who dodged her years ago. Leah tried to keep walking, but I felt her shaking. Sharon saw it and pushed harder. She said she had receipts for every dollar Leah owed her, $3,600 in child expenses, and if Leah tried to fight, she would make sure the court heard every dirty detail from Oklahoma City. Then she looked at me and said, if I had any sense, I would run before Leah drained my little paycheck too. I drove away without answering. Leah cried silently in the passenger seat. Emma was not with us, and somehow that made the car feel even more crowded. 2 days later, I called Marcus again. I told him I needed to understand guardianship, custody, forged narratives, everything. He asked whose child it was. I said not mine by blood, and maybe that was why nobody expected me to care. He told me caring was not standing, but evidence mattered. Money mattered. Patterns mattered. He said messages, bank transfers, court filings, witnesses, anything showing Sharon had manipulated Leah or used Emma as leverage. Then he asked if Sharon knew anything about me beyond the mechanic job. I said no. Marcus paused, then told me to keep it that way for now. Leah began forwarding me old messages, Sharon demanding $600 for school clothes that Leah later found at Goodwill for $42. Sharon asking for $1,200 for a dental bill the clinic said had been covered by Medicaid. Sharon threatening to tell Emma that Leah chose men over her if a payment was late. Each message was a small, ugly thing, but together they formed a shape. Then Brooke sent me something I did not expect. It was a screenshot from 5 years earlier, a message Sharon had sent her after Leah gave birth. Sharon wrote, "He is not answering because men like Ethan know when to disappear. Let that girl believe he ran. It will make court easier later." The next morning, Leah and I went to the county courthouse to request copies of the guardianship file. She was nervous enough to forget her own zip code at the clerk's window. I paid the $28 copy fee and stood beside her while the clerk disappeared into the back. 10 minutes later, she returned with a thin stack of papers and a look that made me straighten before she said a word. The clerk slid the papers over and pointed to a page near the middle. There, attached to Sharon's guardianship petition, was a signed statement claiming I had abandoned Leah during pregnancy, refused contact, and verbally denied responsibility for Emma. My name was typed in 3 places. At the bottom was a signature that was supposed to be mine. It was not. Leah covered her mouth. I felt every sound in the courthouse sharpen around me, shoes on tile, papers sliding, a printer whining behind the counter. Marcus had warned me not to react in places where reaction could be used against us, so I folded the page carefully and asked for a certified copy. That night, while Leah sat at my kitchen table reading the file with red eyes, my phone buzzed with a text from Sharon. It said, "I know you two went downtown. You have no idea what you are stepping into. Tell Leah court is Friday, and tell your mechanic boyfriend I filed for back support anyway. Let's see how proud he acts when a judge sees he owes $111,000. It was an affidavit with my forged signature, enlarged under a notary stamp, and right below it, in clean legal language, was a petition naming me as Emma's presumed father for purposes of unpaid support. For the first time since I had known her, Leah did not cry. She just whispered, "My mother is going to destroy you too." I looked at the forged signature, the false debt, the court date, and the woman who thought I was still just a tired mechanic with no money, no attorney, and no way to fight back. Then I called Marcus and told him it was time to stop being quiet. Marcus did not raise his voice when I told him about the affidavit. That was how I knew it was bad. He asked me to send every page, every message from Sharon, every screenshot from Brooke, the DNA result, and anything Leah had from Oklahoma City. Then he told me not to contact Sharon again unless it was through him. I asked if a forged signature on a family court document was enough to stop her, and he said enough was not the same as clean. Truth is not a hammer by itself. It has to be numbered, dated, witnessed, printed, filed, and placed in the right hands before the wrong person can turn it into noise. So I started building the file. Leah sat at my kitchen table with her old phone, bank statements, and a yellow legal pad. She wrote down every payment she had sent Sharon after leaving for Oklahoma City. $300 here, $800 there. $1,150 when Sharon said Emma needed dental work. $2,400 when Sharon claimed she was behind on rent. By the end of the second night, Leah had counted $31,870 in transfers over 3 years. She looked at that number and said, "I thought I was failing Emma. She made me believe I was barely helping." I asked if she had receipts. Leah shook her head. Sharon had always said receipts were insulting, like Leah was accusing her own mother of stealing from a child. The next day, Marcus found the first hard crack in Sharon's story. The dental bill she used to demand $1,150 had been $86 after Medicaid. The school supply fee she claimed was $600 had been $38. The urgent care visit, she said, cost $740 had no record at the clinic at all. But the bigger crack came from the guardianship file. The notary stamp belonged to a woman named Carol Whitman, who had already been investigated for improper notarizations. Marcus called her, and Carol admitted she had not personally seen me sign anything. Sharon had brought the document already signed, swore I was unreachable, and begged her to help because a child needed stability. Carol said she regretted it. Regret did not erase a signature. Marcus had her sign a sworn statement the next morning. That single page cost me another $900 in legal work, and I paid it because Sharon thought I was defending my pride. I was defending the truth before it swallowed Leah and Emma completely. Sharon did not stay quiet while we prepared. She called Leah at work and screamed loud enough that Leah's manager heard. Then she showed up outside the clothing store with Emma in the back seat and told Leah she could wave at her daughter from the sidewalk because that was all a woman like her deserved. When Leah tried to walk toward the car, Sharon locked the doors and drove away while Emma cried through the window. That was the first time Leah almost broke. She came to my shop after closing, shaking so hard she could not hold her purse. I was still in my navy work shirt, hands black with grease, and for a moment I saw exactly what Sharon wanted everyone to see. A mechanic, a man with dirty hands, someone who could be dismissed and dragged into court like a prop. Leah said maybe Sharon was right, maybe Emma was safer if Leah waited until she had more money, a better apartment, a cleaner past, a stronger case. I pulled the office chair out and made her sit before her legs gave out. Then I put the bank transfer summary in front of her and pointed to the total. $31,870. I pointed to the forged affidavit. I pointed to the notary statement. I pointed to the DNA result. I told her waiting had been Sharon's weapon. Leah wiped her face with both hands. She asked me why I was doing all this when Emma was not mine and when Leah had brought me nothing but trouble. I almost said because I loved her, but love had been used so carelessly in that family that it felt wrong to throw it on the table like a cure. So I told her the truth I could prove. I said, because someone wrote my name on a lie, and your daughter is living inside it. That was the night Leah decided to fight. Friday morning came with heavy rain. Leah wore a simple black dress and a thrift store blazer she had bought for $18 because she wanted the judge to see a mother, not a mistake. I wore clean jeans, boots, and a plain button-down under my work jacket. Marcus told me not to look like I was trying too hard. Sharon would come expecting grease and weakness. Let her bring the arrogance into the room herself, he said. She did. Sharon arrived with Emma, Brooke, and a lawyer named Dennis Langley, who wore a tan suit and the expression of a man who charged by the hour for pretending not to hear poor people. Emma looked tired. When she saw Leah, her whole face changed, but Sharon pulled her close by the shoulder before the child could move. Then Sharon saw me. She smiled, looked me up and down, and said, "Well, at least you found a shirt without oil on it." Dennis gave a small laugh. Brooke looked at the floor. Leah's hand tightened around the strap of her purse, but she said nothing. That silence mattered. Now she stood still and let Sharon reveal herself. Sharon stepped closer and lowered her voice, not enough to hide it, only enough to make it cruel. She said, "I hope your boyfriend brought a checkbook. 5 years of running from a child adds up. My lawyer calculated $111,600 before penalties." I looked at Dennis. He looked back like I was a stain on the tile. Then he said, "If you are smart, Mr. Cole, you will consider settling before the hearing. My client is willing to discuss a repayment structure." A repayment structure. For a child that was not mine, based on a statement I had never signed, filed by a woman who knew the DNA test was negative before she made the demand. Marcus walked up behind me before I answered. He handed Dennis a folder and said, "We will not be settling fraudulent support claims in the hallway." Dennis opened the folder. His expression changed when he saw the DNA report, the notary statement, and the screenshot Brooke had sent. Then Sharon leaned over and snapped, "That proves nothing. Men like him always find a way." Marcus looked at her and said, "Mrs. Parker, the court reporter will enjoy that attitude more than I do." That shut her up. Inside the courtroom, Judge Henderson did not smile when people entered. Leah sat at our table with her hands folded so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. Dennis went first. He painted Sharon as a devoted grandmother who had sacrificed everything for Emma while Leah disappeared into unstable work and unstable relationships. He said Leah had voluntarily left the child, failed to provide consistent support, and recently resurfaced with a man who had already denied responsibility once and was now interfering. Then he looked at me. He called me a mechanic with no legal relationship to the child, no standing in the matter, and a possible financial liability depending on the court's view of prior acknowledgement. Sharon sat straighter with every sentence. When Dennis mentioned Leah's time in Oklahoma City, he did not say private club. He did not have to. He paused in that practiced way people use when they want shame to fill the blank. Marcus stood only when Dennis finished. He started with dates. Leah left Texas on June 4, 2021. Sharon filed for temporary guardianship on July 19, 2021. The affidavit with my alleged signature was dated July 12, 2021. On that date, I had been in Amarillo closing on a 12-unit rental inspection from 8:30 in the morning until almost 6 at night. Marcus had the hotel receipt for $142.18, the inspection invoice, and 3 time-stamped emails from that day. Then he placed the DNA result into evidence. Probability of paternity 0.00%. For the first time, Sharon's chin lowered a little. Marcus then submitted Carol Whitman's sworn statement, admitting she notarized the document without witnessing my signature. The judge read that page slowly, and the air shifted from family mess to something sharper. Judge Henderson asked Sharon if she had provided the affidavit to the court. Sharon said she had provided what she believed was true. The judge asked if she saw me sign it. Sharon said Leah had told her enough about me to know I would not take responsibility. That was not an answer, and everyone in the room knew it. Then Marcus opened the second folder. This was the part Sharon did not expect. It had to do with money, and money had always been the language she understood best. Marcus showed the transfer spreadsheet. $31,170 sent from Leah to Sharon between August 2021 and September 2024. Then he showed records proving Sharon had inflated an $86 dental bill to $1,150, a $38 school fee to $600, and a fake urgent care charge to $740. Her own handwritten ledger claimed $38,600 in child-related costs with no receipts attached. Judge Henderson asked Sharon where the money had gone. Sharon said raising a child was expensive, and no one in that room knew what she had sacrificed. Marcus said, "Your Honor, we also have a lease ledger relevant to Mrs. Parker's claimed housing stability." Dennis objected, but the judge wanted to see it. That was when Sharon finally looked confused. Marcus handed over the lease record for 1846 Briar Glen Drive, the house where Sharon had been raising Emma. Monthly rent, $2,150. Past due balance, $9,675. Property owner, Hollow Creek Residential LLC. Sharon frowned at the page like the words were in another language. Marcus said, "Mrs. Parker told the court in her sworn update that she was current on housing and used Ms. Miller's payments primarily for the child's rent, medical needs, and schooling. The property ledger shows no payment for 4.5 months. Dennis stood again, saying the landlord's records had not been authenticated. Marcus nodded and said, "The owner is present." Sharon looked around. I felt Leah turn toward me, confused too. I had kept it quiet because I needed Sharon's lies to walk into the room without warning. Judge Henderson looked at Marcus. "Who owns Hollow Creek Residential?" Marcus turned slightly and said, "Mr. Cole is the managing member. The home is part of a 14-property portfolio valued at approximately $2.3 million. His personal ownership interest is 30%, and his verified income last year was $184,700. The room went still. Sharon stared at me like my face had changed shape. Dennis stopped touching his pen. Brooke's mouth opened, then closed. Leah looked at me, not with betrayal, but with stunned understanding. Like every insult Sharon had thrown at my work shirt had suddenly returned to the person who threw it. I did not feel powerful in that moment. I felt tired. Judge Henderson asked me to stand. My legs felt heavier than they should have. I gave my name, Ethan Cole. Marcus asked if I worked as a mechanic. I said yes. Then he asked if I also owned and managed rental property through Hollow Creek Residential and Coal Ridge Holdings. I said yes. He asked if I had ever told Sharon Parker that I owned the house she rented. I said no. He asked if Sharon was behind on rent. I said the ledger showed $9,775, not including the next month's rent due on the 1st. Then Marcus asked why no eviction had been filed. I looked at Emma. She was sitting beside a court-appointed advocate near the side, swinging her feet above the floor. She did not understand the numbers, only the fear adults were making around her. I said, "Because there was a child in the house and I did not know what was true yet." That answer did more than any number could. Marcus continued. He asked if I was seeking custody of Emma. I said no. He asked if I was seeking money from Sharon in that hearing. I said no. He asked why I was there. I said Sharon had used my name on a forged statement to help separate a mother from her daughter. I said I was not Emma's father, but I would not let my name stay on a document that taught Emma every adult around her could be bought, bullied, or erased. My voice almost broke at the end, and I hated that it did. Then Leah had to speak. She stood, and for a second I saw all the old shame try to climb onto her shoulders. Dennis asked about Oklahoma City. He asked about the club. He asked if she believed that kind of work reflected good judgment. He asked if she had left Emma voluntarily. Every question was a hook, and Sharon watched like she was waiting for Leah to bleed in the right place. Leah answered more steadily than I expected. She said she had made mistakes. She said she left because she was scared, broke, and manipulated into believing temporary guardianship was the only way to keep Emma insured and housed. She said she sent what money she could, including $31,870 she believed was being used for Emma. She said she was now employed at a clothing store, earning $17 an hour, with a promotion offer to assistant manager at $23 an hour if her schedule stabilized. Then Marcus asked her what she wanted. Leah looked at the judge, not at Sharon. She said, "I want a transition plan. I want my daughter home. I want the court to know I am not pretending I did everything right. But I did not abandon her. I was pushed out, lied to, and then punished for believing my own mother." Sharon finally lost control. She stood up without permission and said Leah was twisting everything because she had found a man with money. Then she pointed at me and said, "He was nobody when this started. He was a dirty mechanic sniffing around my daughter, and now he's acting like some big landlord because he bought a few cheap houses." Judge Henderson told her to sit down. Sharon did not. She said Leah was unfit, Emma belonged with her, and no court had the right to tear a child away from the only real mother she had known. Then she turned to Emma and said, Tell them you don't want to leave, Grandma." Emma froze. The judge's face changed completely. She ordered Sharon to stop speaking. The advocate moved closer to Emma. That was the moment the room stopped seeing Sharon as a grandmother fighting too hard and started seeing the hand around the child's throat. Judge Henderson called a recess. In the hallway, Sharon came at me so fast, Brooke had to grab her arm. She hissed that I had planned this, that I had let her humiliate herself, that I thought money made me better than her. I told her she had done the humiliation alone. She slapped me. It was not hard enough to hurt much, but it echoed. 2 deputies turned immediately. Dennis looked like he wanted the floor to open under him. Brooke whispered, "Aunt Sharon, stop!" And Sharon started crying. Not the sad kind, the furious kind, saying everyone was stealing her family. I did not press charges in that hallway. I did not need to. The deputies wrote it down. The courthouse cameras had seen enough. When we went back inside, Judge Henderson issued temporary orders that changed everything. Leah would receive supervised visitation 3 days a week, then overnight weekends if the advocate found no safety concern. Sharon's sole guardianship authority was suspended pending review. She had to provide a full accounting of Emma's expenses within 14 days. The forged affidavit was referred to the county attorney's office, and the child support claim against me was dismissed on the spot. Sharon made a sound like someone had taken the air out of her. Leah covered her mouth, but this time it was not fear. It was the shock of a locked door opening after years of pushing on the wrong wall. It was not full victory yet. Real life rarely gives full victory in one clean scene, but it was the first time Sharon had been told no by someone she could not bully. The next 3 months were ugly. Sharon produced receipts for less than $7,000 to $400 of the $31,870 Leah had sent. The rest dissolved into cash withdrawals, credit card payments, and a $4,800 down payment on the SUV with expired tags. The county attorney opened an investigation into the forged affidavit and improper notarization. Carol lost her notary commission. Dennis withdrew from representing Sharon after the accounting hearing. Hollow Creek filed a standard eviction after Emma was no longer living in the house full-time. Sharon owed $12,050 by then, including late fees. She told everyone I was throwing an old woman into the street out of revenge, but she never said she had spent 3 years demanding rent money from Leah while not paying rent at all. Leah moved into a 2-bedroom apartment near Emma's school. It was not one of my properties, she insisted on that. The rent was $1,225 a month, and she bought Emma a twin bed, a purple comforter, and a small desk from Facebook Marketplace for $60. Emma called the desk her office. The first overnight visit, Leah barely slept. I stayed away because it needed to be theirs, not mine. At 7:12 the next morning, Leah sent me a photo of 2 bowls of cereal on the kitchen counter and Emma's pink sneakers by the door. No caption. It was enough. By winter, the court terminated Sharon's guardianship. Leah received primary custody, with Sharon allowed only supervised visits until she completed counseling and complied with the financial accounting order. The judge ordered Sharon to repay Leah $2,400 in misused funds over time, though Marcus warned us we might never see most of it. The county did not send Sharon to prison, but she pled to a misdemeanor related to the false notarized statement and received probation, community service, and a permanent stain on the respectable image she had used like a weapon. The day the final order came down, Sharon waited outside the courthouse alone. No Brooke, no lawyer, no Emma. She looked smaller without an audience. She asked if I was proud of myself. She said I had ruined her. I told her I did not ruin her. I just stopped paying rent on the lie she built. She looked at Leah then, and for 1 second I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said, "He'll leave you too." Leah did not flinch. She said, "Maybe, but if he does, I won't teach my daughter to hate him just so I don't have to face myself." Sharon walked away after that. Leah and I did not turn into a perfect family because a judge signed papers. Emma had nightmares. Leah had guilt that came back in waves. I had my own ugliness too. Sometimes I caught myself wanting credit for staying, and that scared me because children do not owe adults applause for doing the decent thing. So I learned to be careful. I did not ask Emma to call me Dad. I did not move into Leah's apartment. I showed up when invited, fixed things that broke, sat through school events and let trust arrive without dragging it by the arm. When Emma told everyone I was her almost stepdad, then asked me later if that was okay, I told her almost was a fine place to start. Leah eventually became assistant manager. $23 an hour became $25-50. She took night classes in bookkeeping because she said she wanted numbers to stop scaring her. One evening she found me reviewing a $420,000 lease renewal for the pharmacy lot and smiled in a way that had no fear in it. She said, "You really were never just a mechanic." I wiped my hands on a rag and told her no, but being a mechanic was the first thing I was proud of. The money came later, the properties came later, the title came later, the hands came first. 2 months after that, I asked Leah to marry me by the lake, where Emma had fed the ducks. The ring cost $3,200. I know because Leah asked, and when I hesitated, she raised one eyebrow and said we were not starting a marriage with mystery invoices. I told her the exact number. She said it was too much, then held out her hand anyway. Emma asked if this meant I was finally dropping the almost. I told her only if she wanted me to. She thought about it with the seriousness of a judge. Then she said, "You can be Ethan Dad because regular dad is confusing." The wedding cost $8,700, including the hall, food, flowers, Leah's dress, and a DJ who played too much George Strait because Emma bribed him with cupcakes. It was not grand, but when Leah stood in front of me with Emma pressed against her side, I felt something in me finally unclench. Years earlier, Sharon had tried to make me the man who disappeared. For a while, I almost became him by staying out of a story I had every excuse to avoid. Emma was not my blood. Leah had lied by silence. Sharon had forged my name. Any reasonable person could have told me to walk away and protect my peace. But sometimes peace is just a clean name for fear. Now Emma is 9. Leah keeps the certified court order in a folder at the back of our closet, not because she wants to remember the pain, but because she says some victories need paperwork too. Sharon sends birthday cards through Brooke. Emma reads them when she feels like it and ignores them when she does not. We let her choose. Last month, Emma had a school project about family. She drew Leah, me, herself, and a small house with a crooked roof. Under my stick figure, she wrote "Ethan Dad fixes cars and lies." When I asked what that meant, she rolled her eyes and said, "No, Ethan Dad fixes cars and fixes lies." I kept that paper. People always ask when I knew Leah and I would make it. They expect me to say the court hearing, the wedding, or the day Emma came home for good. But the truth is smaller. It was the morning after Emma's first overnight visit, when Leah sent me that photo of 2 cereal bowls without a single word. Just proof that the life Sharon said was impossible had started anyway. So when I think back to Brooke calling me a deadbeat in front of strangers, to Sharon smiling over forged papers, to a $111,600 lie built on my name, I do not feel the same anger anymore. I feel the weight of how close we came to letting the loudest person decide the truth. And I wonder, if a child who was not yours was trapped inside a lie with your name on it, Would you have walked away just because the DNA test said you could? What would you do in this situation? Be honest, or did this remind you of someone? Tell me in the comments. And if this made you think about your own relationship, I left something in the description that can help you build something stronger. Subscribe if you want more stories like this every day, and share this with someone who needs to hear this story.